My name is Luriti Gusuk, the lead judge of this public speaking round. I am joined by Felix Nyabuto Nyachio to my left and Hilary Matano to my right. The topic of this episode is food safety, voting with forks. We welcome the first public speaker to the floor, Vanessa Ngunjiri from Pioneer International University.
My friend Gina is a very woke person. And I think I specifically like her for being very woke. I mean, in such an era where everything is changing so fast, everything requires us to have so much information, to know so much, and to actually be very politically correct. I think it's a good thing that she's very woke. And I think that's one of the reasons why she's my very close friends. I mean, I'm also like woke, and I try to support what's trendy and also what's good. I mean, I'm here having colored hair in such an African society where I had to convince my parents to actually give me the permission to get colored hair. I mean, it's all good, right? And it's all right. And being woke, in as much as I want to say that no, it shouldn't be about the trend, I mean, it's all about the trend. But the trend that I'm not comfortable with is what Gina has taken to nowadays. I mean, what's with all the eating natural? What's with all the vegan, vegetarian stuff? I mean, what's with all the I can no longer eat food from the mall. I do not know how it has been stored. I mean, what's with all of that? Food is just food, right? Now, let me tell you. What annoyed me is this day, she made us go from the mall to look for a Mama Mboga's place just so she could get, wait for it, an avocado. An avocado. I mean, an avocado at the mall is the same avocado at the Mama Mboga, is the same avocado you eat from the it's just an avocado, so why can't she just simply eat it from the mall? She said something like, you know, I need to know that it is actually not produced with toxins. I need to know that it is actually safe. And you know, I'm really keeping myself from lifestyle diseases. And that raised a lot of questions in my head. And I thought, I want to look at this. I cannot be woke, yet Gina said something that I should know more about. She also said something about the vote not just being about the ballot, voting with what you eat. And it was all so confusing in my head. And I mean, you can understand it because I necessarily consider myself a very woke woman in the 21st century, yet I did not know that you can vote with your fork. Okay, so I went to the internet to dive and look at what is voting with your fork. And apparently it's a thing. So the first time someone started or an article about voting with a fork was published, it was by someone called Michael Pollan, right? 2006 in the New York Times, and he said, you know what, you can actually have power, you can actually control what you eat. And I thought, why should I control what I eat? I mean, the only thing I know about controlling what I eat, of course I should eat healthy, of course I should eat carbohydrates and proteins and vitamins, I should have a balanced diet, and it should be actually at different intervals. And to me, that is enough. I mean, look at me, I'm healthy. To me, that is okay. But turns out there is actually more about food that we don't know and we should actually know. Turns out that we should be worried about how food is produced or where it comes from or who produces it or how it is actually processed or how we get it and actually their nutritional value. So maybe Gina is not just being trendy. Maybe she's actually making sense. And in as much as this was quite confusing in my head, and it still quite is, I must admit that I'm still coming to terms with it, maybe it is something that you should be worried about. I mean, look at it this way. Why should I eat food that will later make me sick? I mean, that even made me kind of draw a line. Maybe that's why all these lifestyle diseases are such a trend nowadays. People no longer care about what they eat. I, for such a long time, have not cared about what I eat. Oh, come on, junk is the trend. Junk is the thing. Who doesn't eat junk? That is uncool. That is a parent's thing. But, oh my God, no, it's not a parent's thing. It is something that I should also be worried about. Now, I may want to do this, and I'm in the era of doing this, but how is it possible for the normal average person with no internet access to actually know this, to actually know that they can vote with their fork? And is it just about Gina doing it, or should someone else be able to do it? I mean, there are also people who are actually producing this food. The government should be doing something, but what these companies are doing is rebranding food and naming food naturally, or meat that is actually from animals that are grass-fed, or meat that is actually doesn't have toxins. But maybe there's something more that should be done, and I'm just thinking that, wow, so much still has to be done, and so much work has to go into making this food. So much, we have to do so much to ensure that we are liberated food-wise. I'll come up with a term for that later. But maybe it is important that I am not only liberated by what I wear or the color of my hair, but also by what I eat. Now, the interesting article by Michael Pollan also said, you know what, the good thing about eating, the good thing about voting with your fork is that you get to do it 3 times a day. You get to choose what you eat. You get to choose what you put into your body. And maybe, just maybe, by buying food that is actually very well produced and saved, by buying food from the mama mboga, maybe you are actually exercising that right, and you are protecting your society and yourself. We should do that. And all these other sectors can actually come and do that. So support me. Vote with your forks. Eat healthy. Maybe Gina is just doing it for the trend, but it is actually a thing, and it is cool and woke. Thank you.
Thank you, Vanessa. We welcome the second public speaker, Frederick Waititu from the University of Nairobi.
Toxic. Let me tell you, there are various definitions on what toxic means. Some say it's biting into ice cream when it's cold. Some say it's forgetting a present for your spouse during her anniversary. Wouldn't you want it to be me? But also they say toxic can be your relation with your tax, with how you pay your taxes. But I guess that's your choice, whether you want to do it or not. But when it comes to this toxic, what is this toxic? It actually has a special cousin. Might seem cheerful, but actually is similar in nature, but actually is actually far worse. And the example I can give is with my friend Jeff. Jeff. Oi, Jeff. Jeff is this friend of mine. He boasts of having this beautiful spouse. You know, the snatched waist, those long braids that he loves to twirl with his fingers around. You know, all that good stuff about her. And so it happens that actually Jeff was a good spouse. He didn't forget the anniversary. So he bought her that bouquet of flowers, those red roses that you all love, that bar of Lindt chocolate, and that nice dress, that she could go and wear it when she went out with her friends. But woe unto Jeff. I guess fate was not on his side. Too bad. It just so happens that that night of happiness was to turn into a night of toxic misery. It turns out that his so-called beloved spouse was actually his long-lost cousin. Drama. To think that such a toxic situation will happen to him, not out of his own volition, but out of ignorance. The ignorance that actually happens in between the extended families. We don't stay in touch. We don't get to follow up on what is happening to the other, who gave birth, who graduated, and all those niceties that we actually have. But no, nowadays, you get your wealth, your fellow human, goodbye. What is that? That toxic situation is actually what led him to all this. And in the same way, it can be said about your food. You should be able, be critical. No longer can we say ignorance is bliss. But actually you are at fault. You should be able to know, go find out. These toxins that we speak about, that happen into your food, where do they go? They damage your liver. They damage your heart. They damage your brain. If you can't use your brain, what are you, basically? You're just a mere shell of the human you once were. And in the same breath, we can say, don't forget you have a choice. Don't listen to the naysayers like Sarah Wilcock, who says that we cannot eat into our future. I say the best way to live a full life is with a full stomach. How can you make an informed decision over something you have no information about? This ignorance out of arrogance. They might rhyme, but also they rhyme in disaster also as well. So in this, look at it. You have a right. In this case, don't pick up a pen. Pick up your fork. The fork that you dig into that plate of fries you love. Don't forget. Make it balanced. Salad on the side. Some vitamins, maybe a fruit later on. You know, have a balance, like all things should be. Just like the car that you drive to work. You ensure that all tires are balanced for a smooth ride. In the same way, you'll make your life smooth. Like during this period that we face, this pandemic, this global catastrophe that we all face, in the same way, through a healthy living, what the health experts telling us? Eat well. Eat a balanced diet. Eat good food, not just any food, but a good balanced toxic-free food. In the same way that Abraham Lincoln said that democracy is for the people and by the people, and the way Martin Luther King in his own way said the people should raise up their arms, I will now add my own analogy to it all. No longer raise your hands or voices, but raise your fork in solidarity that you are taking charge of your life. You're taking charge of your future. You are in control of whatever outcome that may be later on. And tick it in that voting session. Tick it along that ballot box. Tick your way to a better diet, to a better life. Who wouldn't want a better life? As in the same way, healthy living can only prosper a healthy nation. Thank you.
In this episode, the panel was made of 3 judges. Following a unanimous decision, we deduced that Vanessa Ngunjiri from Pioneer International University is the leading public speaker. The public speakers were tasked to be creative with the topic, food safety, voting with forks. Through storytelling, she brings out the need for the awareness of toxins in our foods and the power to control what we eat by the virtue of voting with our forks. Voting with forks, in her story, comes out as supporting a healthy food culture and how there's a need to support local markets and choosing organic foods over fast foods.